Man, the Brewers did not need to get swept by the Marlins. Fortunately, little late magic, and the Brewers get it done on Sunday. Heading into a huge week for this team. We'll get to all that coming up next in this edition of Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I was telling you guys last week, I said the Marlins are not going to be an easy out. They are going to be a tough out. They're like that mid-major that you're playing in the NCAA tournament. They're going to go down fighting. They've been playing very, very well. And the Brewers, I'm telling you, I think they're fortunate to get away with one of these games because things were not going well this weekend. Fortunately, they woke up late and got the job done. And now, not only are the Cubs in town, it's the trading deadline coming up on Thursday afternoon. We'll get to all that coming up next here on Locked On Brewers. Chuck Friedman, good to have you along. Longtime sportscaster here and proud host of Locked On Brewers, my third-year host in Locked On Brewers. And we are continuing to grow, and it's because you great Brewers fans out there. Hope you all had a great weekend, whether you were in the 90-degree heat on Sunday afternoon or took in the game or the home run derby and the game on Friday night, man. I ran into a lot of people, and great to meet all you guys, and you know who you are, and talking Brewers baseball with you. We'll tell you how you can get a contact me a little bit later on here in the show. But, yeah, the Brewers, things did not go well in the first two games of this series. Marlins pulled away on Friday night, late Friday afternoon, and then Saturday, Brewers were right in that game, and then the Marlins put up a big spot there, including a 3-run home run, some shoddy defense. And then on Sunday, Brandon Woodruff, I thought, pitched great. 6 innings, 4 hits, another quality start. That's 3 quality starts out of this guy, but they were not getting a lot of offense. But the Brewers woke up late and got the job done. Blake Perkins, just another contributor on this team. Just another contributor on this team with the walk-off base hit to the warning track out there and sends the Brewers off to a win. Andrew Vaughn, RBI single in the 8th. And I was thinking about the Andrew Vaughn and just how many big at-bats he's come through this team. He hit a home run on Saturday as well in the 9th inning. And the Brewers didn't do anything after that. But if you think about it, the Brewers would not have Andrew Vaughn if they didn't call up the Miz. They call up the Miz. Savale requests a trade. The Brewers see, well, there's a struggling kid down in Chicago with the White Sox. Maybe we can do something with him. So the White Sox give us one of their top prospects from years gone by. And, he's come here and he's been great so far. I mean, it makes you forget about Rhys Hoskins or when Rhys is going to come off the injured list, because Andrew Vaughn, to me, has anchored down that first base job. You're going to have to pry that away from him. All right. Now, I'm not saying Rhys Hoskins is not going to play, but Andrew Vaughn has been just terrific in many ways for this team. And, to win that final game of the series, you didn't want to get swept heading into this series with the Chicago Cubs, and a big one it is. 58 games left in the schedule. The Brewers 61-43. And, they had some offensive issues in this series, and maybe those offensive issues would show us, well, maybe the Brewers need to make a move. You hear they are very active in the trading market. We're going to get to that coming up here in a little bit. But the trading deadline is late Thursday afternoon. But not only are the Brewers in a first-place tie with the Chicago Cubs and got a good Cubs team coming in. I think the Brewers are better. I know Cub fans don't like to hear that, but I think the Brewers are a better team, and in a number of different ways. But yeah, and along the way, both of these teams are going to try to improve themselves this week. It's a big week for the Cubs and a big week for the Milwaukee Brewers. But with the offensive issues the Brewers had at times, and I said this last week, I said things are going so well for this team, maybe they don't need to make a move. But there were some interesting things that happened this weekend, and we're going to get to some of that, that maybe scratch my head a little bit and think, maybe they will make a move. But the Brewers got 22 comeback wins. I think instead of this being the summer of fun, as owner Mark Attanasio, we kind of dubbed it the summer of fun. Go out to the game, take your kids to the game or whatever. Go out to the game, take your girlfriend, take your wife, have a fun time. And if the Brewers win, great. That's that's just icing on the cake. Us hardcore Brewer fans don't look at it that way. We want to see World Series. We want to see division titles. We want to see championships. That is our summer of fun. But it's a summer of comebacks, the summer of walk-off wins. Man, so many walk-offs this summer alone. And Sunday, another walk-off win. I just feel like the Brewers, they get to that late innings, and that's excitement. I mean, a walk-off win. I mean, the stadium is never louder than when the Brewers win in walk-off fashion. I mean, you have home runs, you have things happen during the game, but when the Brewers get a walk-off win, and press conference afterwards, Pat Murphy, the Brewers manager, he was like choking up because Blake Perkins is one of his guys. And Perk is one of those guys who he had the shin injury, the bone in the shin that was bothering him, and it was fractured, and he had to miss 5 months there, and came back and didn't know if he had a roster spot on the team. And because of Frelick's injury, there was, and he was on this roster, and he's been terrific so far. I think, he's played some nice defense out there. And, he did have a mistake the other day, but still, big RBI base hit as they walk Churio to get to him, and Perk makes him pay. But this division is so wide open right now. And when I say it's wide open, well, the division is wide open. The National League is so wide open right now. And let me tell you, here's why. I look at the Dodgers, and I watched the Dodgers play Boston this weekend. And I look at the Brewer line. I look at the Dodger lineup, and we've seen them. The Brewers went 6-0 against them. And, people could make excuses for the Dodgers and all that. And the Dodgers, they're just waiting for the postseason. You can't turn it on and turn it off like that in pro sports or any type of sports. You just can't be that way. And man, there's something missing from the Dodgers. I look at the Phillies, and I saw them this weekend. They played the Yankees, and I'm thinking, the Brewers don't have to. The Brewers went in there and swept the 3-game series from the Phillies. The Cubs certainly not. San Diego, San Francisco, no. I mean, San Diego, Brewers. Certainly not San Francisco. I mean, San Francisco got swept this weekend by the Mets, and the Brewers can compete with the Mets. The Mets have won 7 in a row. So those teams right there, I just look at it, and I'm, maybe last year the Brewers had to look up to the Dodgers or maybe the Phillies. Yeah. But I look at this right now, and I honestly feel like the Brewers, these teams, are they better? Well, the Brewers are right there with them. Yeah, some of those teams have got, billion-dollar ball players. But I look at the Mets. I'm watching the Mets this weekend. Yeah, they won 7 in a row. But, yeah, the Brewers can, and they have competed with these guys. So I look at it where this whole weekend when I was watching baseball, I've watched a lot of the contenders in the National League, and the Brewers are right there with all. The Cubs looked terrible on Friday against the White Sox, and then they bounced back and won the final 2 against a lousy team that was hot going into that series, the White Sox. But the National League, man, is very wide open. Don't let anybody sell you that the Brewers are the Dodgers, because, again, you've seen that they've gone 6-0 against the Dodgers, and the Brewers just have that extra fight, they need to maybe make a move. They need to make a move. And I'm going to tell you something that happened during the game on Sunday, which leads me to believe that they might be thinking about the third base spot. We'll get to that coming up next in the trade deadline. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Show is brought to you in part by Monarch Money. Man, if you're spending money left and right, Monarch Money is going to say, hey, you're spending this money on going to the movies, on concerts, on going out to eat or whatever. Monarch Money is just more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial center, a command center. You can track all your accounts, all your investments, all your spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also going to manage and build your wealth. Again, our family, we've noticed by using Monarch Money, we spend too much money going out. That means better trips to the grocery store, more trips, and less going out and spending our money when it all adds up on tips and all that. Monarch Money's telling you, hey, you spend too much money going out. Take control of your finances. Monarch Money. Use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com. You get 50% off your first year. monarchmoney.com. The promo code is LOCKEDONMLB. You'll get half off your first year with Monarch Money. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers. By the way, our podcast, you get it on Google, Spotify, Apple. We're on all the major downloads. Wherever you download your podcast, we're the number one podcast on the internet as far as Brewers baseball is concerned. We're on all those major platforms out there. And of course, our growing YouTube page. If you're already listening to us on the audio platform, go to our YouTube page, search Locked On Brewers, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That'll alert you every time we drop an episode. You're on Locked On Brewers. All right, this Cubs series that's coming up. And then I'm going to get to the trade deadline here. This Cubs series, the matchups, Mizorowski, it's Matthew Boyd. I see the Brewers are a minus 112 underdog already in game one. Priester against Ray, Colin Ray, who didn't look very good in his last outing last week. I forgot what game it was. I think it might have been Thursday or Wednesday. I saw him pitch. Was not good. But otherwise, he's been pretty good for the Cubs. And, Colin Ray has been pretty steady. So he's going to give you a professional effort out there against Priester, who's just been magnificent. And then in the afternoon game on Wednesday, Shota is going to pitch for the Cubs, and Peralta is going to go for Milwaukee. But this series, first place tie, the Cubs have had some strikeout issues as of late. They came alive in their final two games of the series, and Cub fans already getting all worked up. I put a little thing on Twitter, and I don't care if Cub fans come after you. Can come after me all you want. I could care less about you. I care a bit less about my fan base, the Brewers fan base. That's what I care about. I'm here. That's who I care about. But the Cubs fan base coming after me this weekend and last week, because I think the Brewers are a better team. I do. And I've said this about Council. I was watching the game on Friday afternoon or Friday night. And I saw the Cubs. And again, I'm just looking, sometimes they just are moping around. They are just in a dredge sometime. And I hope they do that in this 3-game series here, take on the manager of Council, but take on the personality of Council. But I was not impressed. I have not been impressed with the Cubs. The Cubs should be better than they are. And the Brewers, I think, have a lot of the intangibles. And Cub fans didn't want to hear that, but it's true. And, they come at me and call AmFam Field, Wrigley Field North. Brewers fans, let's not make that happen this weekend. Don't be selling your tickets to these guys. All right. But one guy who's been on fire for the Cubs is Matt Shaw. Now, the Cubs are after a third baseman. All offseason, they did a lousy job fixing the third base spot, just like the Brewers going into spring training didn't have much of a plan. Plan A and Plan B worked, and finally Durbin kind of saved him a little bit. But the Brewers are still looking for a third baseman, it sounds. But Matt Shaw for the Cubs has been terrific, man. Since the All-Star break, 4 home runs. He's 11 of his last 23, swinging a very hot bat. And the Cubs are on the market for Suarez, and they as sure as heck do not want Suarez coming to the Brewers. Now, one thing good about what happened over the weekend, Ryan McMahon went to the Yankees. So the Yankees might be out of the market for a third baseman. In the offseason, I was thinking, boy, Ryan McMahon would be nice here. Get him, but he's not having the greatest of years. And Suarez, if we're going to get a third baseman, Suarez would be our guy. Actually, Jose Ramirez would be. He's under club control through 2018, a no trade clause. I don't know if the Guardians are going to trade him or if that's even possible. But Suarez, there's going to be a battle between the Cubs and Arizona, or the Cubs and the Brewers. Arizona wants controllable pitching, which the Brewers have an abundance of. Bob Nightingale, USA Today, is already reporting teams are contacting the Brewers about giving up starting pitching. Now, I would hesitate on that. The one thing about that is giving up some of their veteran starting pitching. And I know you got Gasser coming back and all that. If there's an injury somewhere or two down the line here, you don't want to be panicking. Like the Giants are going through stuff where they're bullpenning. They bullpenned their game on Sunday, and they're going to bullpen their game on Monday. They don't have enough starting pitching. The Brewers, on the other hand, don't have to do stuff like that because they have an abundance of starting pitching. Now, usually when you're a contender, you're not trading away starting pitching, but the Brewers have so much of it. I'm just like, man, if there was an injury or two, or someone's got to miss a couple of starts, and we're talking already about putting Miz in the bullpen, and they're not going to send him down to the minors to rest the shoulder. Murphy has already said that, which is good. I don't know. But obviously the two veterans out there, Cortez, who's coming off the injured list, and Quintana. Now, with Cortez, I've said all along, that's the guy you want to trade, I think. Quintana, even though he has struggled lately, I still want to keep Quintana. I do not want to get rid of him. I have a feeling what they will do, they might put him in the bullpen. And Quintana, the veteran that he is not going to cry about it like Savale did. Savale did not want to put bullpen, thought it hurt his market value. Quintana, I think, would understand. CRA is in the mid-4s right now in his last few starts. But that might be an option right there. If you have the Brewers Murphy has already said they're not going with a 6-man rotation. Just not a good way to go. So as of right now, the trading deadline, Ortiz, the Brewers could be looking to replace Ortiz, I feel. And if you saw the game on Sunday, you saw something really interesting. You saw Durbin play second base. And I've said Durbin, his future is at second base with the Milwaukee Brewers. His future's at second base. And he played second base on Sunday in the 8th inning. Terang moved to shortstop. I feel like Terang's future is at shortstop, although he hasn't played shortstop, I believe, until last in 2023. I don't remember him playing shortstop at all in 2024. I believe it was 2023 is last time he played short. So he played short, and Ziegler played third base. Ziegler is not going to be a third baseman on this team going forward. He also took some reps during pregame warmups, a batting practice, we'll call it, at first base on Friday, which is interesting. And Ziegler took some reps at first base because of the injury to Bowers. So Ziegler is technically one of the backup first basemen right now, but he played third base. But what I thought was interesting about Sunday with Durbin playing second base, instead of keeping Durbin at third base and Terang at second, you would think that they would have put Terang at short and Ziegler at second. But they moved everything around. They put Durbin at second. They had a couple of moving parts here. They put Durbin at second, Terang the short, and Ziegler, they kept him at third. Little odd. So I have a funny feeling the Brewers, that could be a prelude, if we want to read into it. If the Brewers get a third baseman here at the trading deadline, that guy would go to third base, Terang would move to short, and Durbin to second, right? Why would they do that? Murphy kind of was asked about this in the press conference after the game, and he said, the guys drew straws. He kind of BS'd his way through it. And that's his prerogative. He's not going to give us the keys to the kingdom on something like that. But I just thought it was interesting. 8th inning, Marlins, you had Durbin at second, Terang at short, Ziegler at third. And I'm like, wow. If I read the leaves on something like that, tells me that could be the formation going forward, with Ziegler at third being replaced by a third baseman the Brewers get in the trade market. All the insiders out there, and you could believe what you want. Some of it you could take with a grain of salt. The Brewers are looking for the Brewers are getting calls about their veteran starting pitching, and they're after some infield help, left side of the infield help. So we'll see what they do. If Ramirez is even available, Suarez certainly is. And the Brewers, if they're going to trade a veteran pitcher, I think it'd be Cortez in any package deal. They might throw in Tyler Black, who they just sent down to the minors, and they showcased him for a little bit up here last week. And maybe Tobias Myers, who just was optioned down to AAA. Maybe he's another guy. Just weird with Tobias Myers, how a guy who was the pitcher of the year and maybe a future of this team, now you wonder if he's got much future other than trade bait. Interesting. Yeah, but the trading deadline coming up Thursday, and really it's a minute-by-minute thing. As I'm rolling out this podcast late Sunday night while I'm on here, when I get off the podcast, I've been checking Twitter all day just to see what's going to happen. But I thought Ryan McMahon going to the Yankees, I was like, great. I mean, but the Yankees, they can still go against, they can still trade for Suarez. But getting McMahon was a little odd. I thought maybe the Yankees thought they didn't, what Arizona wanted for Suarez wasn't what the Yankees were going to give up, or the Yankees, maybe Arizona didn't like the prospects that the Yankees were going to give them, and they wanted more, or just didn't like him, period. But the Brewers, they have prospects, they have talent, they have pitching, they have controllable pitching. The Brewers have enough ammunition to do any deal they really want to do, right? They have guys in the farm system, guys we've never even seen at the major league level. They have some talent. Now, I'm not saying give away the talent, but they have if they're going to be all in, like it sounds like the owner wants them to, they have the ammunition. The Brewers definitely have the ammunition. All right, we come back, a couple of loose ends as well. We'll get to Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Locked On Brewers, Gameday Hue. I got my batting glove. I got a batting glove, and I got a, my kid is going to use the golf club. My kid used the golf club for a batting glove. And that's how batting glove was actually invented. Hawk Harrelson, the one-time White Sox player when he was a Boston Red Sox, he was a golfer, and he used his batting glove. He used his golf club as a batting glove. And that's how he was the first one to use a batting glove at the plate. So anyway, I got my golf club from Gameday Hue. Brewer colors, beautiful. I'm going to bring that on the set next time. But Gameday Hue, they make clean, no logo gear. It's not going to have the Brewers logo on it, but it's going to have all the colors of the Brewers. Team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base out there. It's all about letting your colors speak for you. When you have the green and yellow there, or the green and gold for the Packers, or, green and growing Bucks, you're going to have no giant logos, just smart, versatile styles that work on game day, on the course, or in between. They have shirts, you name it. But they got the hats, I should say, the hats. So I got the Brewers color hats. I got the batting gloves. They have split shade gloves. Perfect gift for the fan who has everything. Check it out. You get 15% off when you use the promo code MLB15, GameDayHue.com, GameDayHue, HUE.com. That code even stacks on bundle deals, so it's time to load up. Let your colors do the talking, because those colors speak louder than words. Those Brewers colors. That's GameDayHue.com. Promo code MLB15. Good to have you along here, Chuck Freeman on Locked On Brewers. All right. Congratulations out to the 3 people who had Wisconsin, Brewers ties. The other one had a Wisconsin tie that got into the Hall of Fame. First of all, CC Sabathia, just amazing. The 2008 year. If you're around back then and were a Brewer fan, you know what he did. But just multiple-time All-Star, Cy Young Award winner, first ballot Hall of Famer, CC Sabathia. Dave Parker, the former Brewer who played here in 1990, was past his heyday. His heyday was with the Pirates and the A's, but he still was an All-Star here, even though he was like 39 or 40 years old. Passed away a few weeks ago. Dave Parker should have been in the Hall of Fame 20 years ago. 20 years ago, Dave Parker should have been in the Hall of Fame. But he was one of the great players of the game in the 70s and 80s. Dave Parker got in, played 1 season with the Brewers. And then Tom Hamilton, the voice of the Cleveland Guardians, Waterloo, Wisconsin, former sportscaster in Milwaukee in the 80s. I knew Tom, played softball with Tom. Man, Tom Hamilton should have been one of those voices with the Milwaukee Brewers alongside Bob Uecker back in the day when Uecker was looking for a sidekick after the Brewers were going through. And I think the Brewers at the time didn't feel like, since Hamilton had Major League Baseball experience, they didn't want to hire him. Hamilton ended up going to the Columbus Clippers, minor league team of the Yankees, ended up getting the job with Cleveland, play-by-play with the Indians at the time. And the rest is history. He's been there. He's now in the Hall of Fame. Tom Hamilton should have been a broadcaster with the Milwaukee Brewers. Brewers overlooked him 35, 40 years ago, but when he was younger and just making his bones as a sportscaster in Milwaukee. But great to see. Great guy, Tom Hamilton, the pride of Waterloo, Wisconsin, the voice of the Cleveland Guardians, goes into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Home run derby on Friday night. Man, that was something special. You just had a funny feeling that was going to turn out really, really cool. And it did. And now you watch other teams will copycat the Milwaukee Brewers and do a home run derby. Brewers were the first, this alumni home run derby, and that turned out to be, everybody stayed for it. All the crowd stayed to it, and there was electric, even though the Brewers had lost a few moments ago. That was cool. Love to see the Brewers do that every year. We'll see, but other teams will copycat on that home run derby. The Brewers wearing the M, by the way. Brewers wearing the M this weekend. That was a little odd. They wore that M from 1970 through 77. The Brewers never had a winning season in those years. 1978, they went with the MB, the glove. And then from then, the franchise kind of took off a little bit. They had its peaks and valleys, but 78 was their first winning season after 7 seasons of wearing the M, which they wore this weekend. I thought odd because they wore that M. They wore those M hats when they played at County Stadium. They never wore those at AmFam Field. And this weekend, specifically Friday night, we were celebrating AmFam Field, yet they were wearing caps that they wore in the 70s. I don't know. It was just weird timing on that, I guess. Hey, the Brewers did take one of those games against the Marlins, and they move on to the Cubs. Enjoy this series with the Cubs. We're going to be back here every night, late night, into the early mornings, having a podcast for you as we do Monday through Friday, as always. Hopefully, talking about the Brewers having maybe a 3-game lead in this division. That would be nice. But they got those 5-gamers with the Cubs. Hopefully, take at least 2 or 3. Certainly, you don't want to get swept, but that's not going to happen. That's not going to be even in our vocabulary. So everybody, have yourself a great Monday, everybody. Have yourself a great Monday. Brewers 61-43 starting the week. Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. My name is Chuck Freeman. Thanks for making us your first listen to every day here on Locked On Brewers.